Good afternoon. Today is Friday, the 23rd of June. Can't believe we're almost halfway through the year, but here we are. So, I saw a video on YouTube with two very well-known singers debating, or not debating, but just listening to great singers from the past and having a conversation about what they liked, what they didn't like. Or they're all great. Don't get me wrong, but it's basically really going into detail about the aesthetic that they're singing with, and how whether that is something they particularly liked versus that they liked other singers better for whatever reason, singing a particular aria one way or another, etc. So it kind of got me to thinking about putting a video together to try to explain what it means to sing either forward or singing back, and singing in the mask, or singing maybe more in the throat or in the mouth. So for those of you that are opera singers, forgive me, I'm going to go into some just basic remedial information for those that are not, so that they can understand kind of what this language means, and it'll make sense whenever I use these terms. So singing in the mask is something that is always described by classical trained singers, opera singers in particular, that are trained in the bel canto style, in particular in the operatic field, to where you want to have forward placement, right? And so the mask would be in here, in this area, very nasal, very frontal, cheeks raised, front teeth showing, right? And this gets into how the acoustics work in the hall that you're singing in. Opera houses are in some cases pretty large, and you've got to carry over an orchestra, and also you've got to fill a large hall. Well, there's only so much volume that you can pump out of your body. The human body is limited based on your own physiology, but there's only so much you can put out. So you've got to let the acoustics, the natural acoustics of your voice, work in the hall, and a way of doing that is to sing forward, to have a very frontal placement, and to sing very brightly, so that the sound will have significant overtones, and will carry over the orchestra and through the hall, etc., so everyone can hear what you're doing and hear your voice. So there are schools of thought associated with mask singing or frontal placement singing. We see that a lot in the Germanic schools and the French schools in particular, versus the Italian or maybe even Spanish schools are more of a chiaro scuro, which means literally the definition of that is of light and dark. Brightness and shadow combined, so that you have a balance, right? That's what, in a perfect world, you have a balance. Everything's balanced, right? Well, the chiaro scuro sound is going to be a little bit more not so forward placed, but also not in the back. It's going to be kind of in the middle. And then you've got the laryngeal or pharyngeal type singers that like to try to really kind of sing from a very, very strong foundational place, so that they can pump out a lot of sound. And it does work. But there's a cost associated with that, because you can't have it both ways. You can either sing forward or you sing back. Chiaro scuro, in a perfect world, you sing a little bit of both, and that works really well too. So let me talk about what mask singing is in particular. So the Italianate singing is going to be more like to the likes of, and I'm going to relate this to Italian tenors in particular, because that's my area of expertise, because I'm a tenor and that's what I studied, etc. So this would be the Luciano Pavarottis of the world. This would be the Carlo Bergonzis of the world. These are the Franco Corellis of the world. There are many, 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 many others. Martinucci, Mario Del Monico. There's going to be Tito Schippa. There's going to be Beniamino Gilli. There's going to be Ferruccio Tagliavini. You name it. There's countless. Giacomo Lauri Volpi, who was an incredible singer. Countless Italian singers that employed from the Italian school. And for all intents and purposes, the vocal mechanics of the Italian school are you take a breath in, and then you phonate out, kind of like you would imagine if you were inflating a balloon, like at a birthday party. You blow up a balloon and it blows up, and then you hold the top of the aperture, and then you can squeeze and let air out ever so slightly, right? And so the body of the balloon is still inflated, and there's pressure in there, and it wants to get out, right? It wants to deflate and go out. Well, you can hold it by opening the valve and letting it, and it'll actually squeak and make sound. I'm sure we've all done that when we were kids. It's very similar as far as how you produce sound in the Italianate school specifically, it's kind of that pharyngeal mechanism is involved in the vocal cords actually are helping to control the flow of air in addition to your diaphragm. If you've got proper support or appoggio, then there's a balance that happens between those mechanisms. The voice is only going to, the voice box, the trachea, the vocal cords themselves are only going to take as much air as needed as to produce the sound, and not anymore, right? Because if you overdo it, then you've got breathy or breathless singing. And if you underdo it, you've got heavy and constricted singing that doesn't vibrate, it doesn't shimmer. So here would be an example of the Italianate school, as best as I can do it in the office here. Let me see if I can get the right pitch. Hello. Sorry, I'm pulling up my pitch pipe here. There we go. So this would be, here's my stab at it. Amor ti vieta di non amare. Okay, that's more of an Italianate school of it's Amor ti vieta di non amare. Everything's kind of coming from the position of I've got the breath supported, it's inside, I'm letting the air out, but I'm not giving any more that needs to actually use, I don't have to use any more air than is necessary to produce the sound and to reach the notes that I'm trying to sing in, right? Here's the Germanic or French school of mask singing, or at least my best attempt at it. So what you're going to find is I'm going to try to slide the placement forward and sing much more from here, and also it may sound a little nasal, right? Especially the microphone that I'm singing right now into is about 3 feet, 4 feet from my face. Understand it might be a little over-exaggerated and sound a little nasal on this video, but if I were standing on the stage and this was in the hall, you wouldn't hear that. You wouldn't hear that. It would just sound like ring or ping or buzz. You hear all these different words to describe what you hear in the hall. So here is my best attempt at singing in the mask. Amor ti vieta di non amare. Amor ti vieta di non amare. Okay, very similar as far as the breath is concerned. That really is the same. But it's amor versus amor ti vieta. You really hear a pronounced lean forward in the resonance or the buzz in the second version, the mask version. Some singers do it so expertly, it's idiomatic to their voice. Like Alfredo Kraus is a Spanish tenor was incredible, sang for 55 years or 60 years on the stage, which is insanity. He was at the top of the opera business for literally almost 60 years as a leading tenor, which is incredible. A testament to his technique. I mean, obviously, the man had rock-solid technique, the likes of which there have been maybe 2 or 3 tenors in the grand scheme of things that could rival him, maybe Björling and Gilli. Luciano Pavarotti probably I'd put in the same idea of knowing his own instrument, how to produce sound, etc. But Kraus would do that in such a most beautiful, and he could do it almost to an exaggerated to the event where you're like, God, that sounds nasal, but it sounded beautiful. It sounded so beautiful. Like in particular, when he would get into the top, he would sing these insane. Let me see if I can pull this up. Sorry, phone keeps shutting off. Like here's an A flat. Like he would sing, yeah. And I don't know if you could hear that crescendo on the camera, but he would get up there and lean. You're leaning into the sound and increasing the pressure ever so slightly. Maybe a little bit more air is coming through, but not much. Not much. Think of it like a stylus that's on a spinning record producing sound. All you're doing is basically you're leaning on the the stylus into the groove just ever so slightly more, not to distort the sound or make it sound out of balance, but maybe just give a little bit more volume, a little bit more vibrancy, a little bit more depth of color. So I'm in the office. Obviously, I can't go crazy and crank in here, or people are going to start walking in saying, what's going on? So I hope that this video gives a little bit of clarity about this. I hope I haven't muddied the waters even more. Feel free to comment. If you have questions, concerns, issues, problems, please don't hesitate. I'm open to any criticism, etc. This is just my particular interpretation after 30 years of singing. Some of which on the stage, some of which is in a professional, but more these days I don't really do much on the stage anymore. But I still sing. I just keep my voice together and try to stay up on my technique, etc. And I'm always learning. So anyway, I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. I wish you all the best. Good singing, good health. I hope life is treating you well. Good luck and God bless. Take care, guys.